Hi there, happy Friday. So today I feel it's a bit controversial, but also not at all controversial. To me, it's just like, well, this is obvious, isn't it? That an architect is going to be the best person to design your home. I mean, an architect is the person who designs buildings, right? So why wouldn't that person be the best for your home design? Well, apparently not, according to a lot of people. And so I've been having some interesting conversations in a Facebook group, which has a lot of people who are really looking to get advice for their home design, for their extension or their conversion. And there are lots of people in there who are not architects, who are giving professional advice. Well, they are professionals, but they're not architects. And they have this really interesting take on architects and how rubbish we are and how we're not the best option for you. So I wanted to tell you why an architect is the best for your home project. And so I thought I'll start off with talking about who else could you get. So there are lots of other people, and in the UK there is no legal requirement to use an architect. You don't have to, you can do it yourself. You can get anybody you like to do it for you. And so there are lots of people who set themselves up and they say a lot of things, like they kind of parade themselves as being an architect, but they're not. They're clearly not an architect, and it's easy to check whether they are or not because you can just check if they are on the Architects Registration Board. But what these people say is, oh, I do just the same thing as an architect. Basically, I'm the same as an architect. And actually, they're not an architect at all, and they haven't got anything like the architect's training or experience or skills. Yet they believe that they are, in a lot of instances, better than an architect. And so I wanted to sort of present the alternative view that an architect is actually the best. So the alternatives would be somebody who can draw plans. So what do you need to be able to do to draw plans? You just need to be able to use a CAD program. So that's pretty basic. Don't need they're not actually difficult to use CAD programs, but not everyone can figure them out, so they're not that easy. But that doesn't make you skilled at designing or understanding technical things or anything like that. It just means you can use a piece of software. So another alternative is a concept designer. Now, concept designer is a bit of a difficult term to understand, really. I mean, they're going to give you a bigger picture idea of what you could do with your home, perhaps. But they may have some architectural training, but they've probably not got much more than a couple of years, if that. And so they may have some design skill, but they probably don't have much in the way of technical skill. So they won't, unlikely to have the combination. Then you could get an architectural designer. That can be anybody. Anyone can call themselves an architectural designer. You've got no idea what skills, what qualifications they've got. You could get an architectural technologist. Now, some architectural technologists are pretty good, especially if they are CEAT certified. So they would have a good level of skill and certainly a good level of technical knowledge and some design skill, but certainly not the same amount of design skill as an architect, but some skill. And then there are lots of building control inspectors who do plans and stuff on the side. They know a lot about the technical stuff. Not likely that they know much about the design side. They might be, lots of people have good design ideas, so it could be something like that, but they're not likely to. They won't give you the same service as an architect. They won't give you the same design result as an architect. They may be good at doing the technical stuff. And a builder, well, builders are brilliant. They're not designers, and they don't necessarily know about more new techniques and methods of construction. If they are, very experienced builders, they can be amazing crafts and skilled craftsmen women, and they know what they're doing, but they don't necessarily have the same bigger picture kind of view of design. And so they can probably design you something that can be built very easily, but that's not necessarily going to give you what you want. So what will they give you, these different people? They're going to give you fairly uncertain level of qualifications. Some of them are going to have more and some of them are going to have less qualifications. And you're not necessarily, you can ask them what qualifications they have, and I advise you to do that. If you decide you don't want to use an architect, then whoever you are going to work with, find out actually what qualifications do they have and what experience do they have, because it's a whole wide world of different things there that you really don't know. There's no basic standard basis for them. They will tend to be much more technically focused, so they won't see the point of designing places that feel nice to be in, and they won't know how to do that either. They will struggle to understand how to design spaces that have got multiple different functional requirements, because that takes it takes a lot of training and understanding of how to assess and interrogate a brief and understand. And a brief is basically what instructions you get from your client. So as a client, you create the brief and you tell your architect what it is that you want, and that is what, as an architect, I will call that my client's brief. Well, as an architect, we're trained to sort of investigate and dig deeper and ask more questions and understand that at a deeper level. And you won't get that from any other professional, because no other professional covers that in their training, and they're unlikely to have any experience of doing it because they don't know that that's a thing to do. And they're likely to have really set ideas about what is typical or necessary or standard. They'll have an idea about what's a standard design, what's a good typical house, and then they'll give you that. So it won't really be very tailored to you and what you need and how you live your life. It will be very standard, and sometimes that very standard can be really well executed, and sometimes it won't be. But it's unlikely to be much in the way of out of the box thinking. It's going to be sort of, along a standard typical lines and without much alternative thinking. They're unlikely to be very innovative. They will much more likely to be following a tried and tested method. And whilst that can be good if you're looking at something that you know for sure is going to be easy to build and you have a really good idea of what the price is going to be like, which is not always certain when you're trying to do an innovative approach. It can take a lot longer, it can cost a lot more. It doesn't have to take a lot longer, it doesn't have to cost a lot more, but it can do. So innovation, there are risks with innovation, so it's not always what you want, but without innovation you don't get something really special and different, you just get the same as everyone else. And so that's the main thing. But then some of those different options, so say perhaps the concept designer, the plan drawer, they might be quite good at design, but chances are they don't have a lot of technical skill and knowledge. So you're going to have like the two extremes. So you'll have the kind of the technologists and the building control inspectors and those sort of very technical background people, engineers sometimes, who are really strong technically. They really know what they're doing in terms of delivering the construction. You're going to get a build that stands up, that's watertight, and that's solid. And okay, that's pretty good. You want that for your home. You don't want it to be falling down, you don't want it to be leaking, and you don't want it to be cold. So those are important things. But so having the technical stuff right is one thing, but you also need more than that. You need a space that you can enjoy, that you love being in, that is easy to live in, that actually fits with you and your lifestyle. And so a concept designer may be able to do some of that, but they're unlikely to have the technical side. So it's that combination really of the technical and the emotional and practical and functional, putting that all together, and the imaginative elements, the innovative, creative elements. The only person that you can get, the only professional in the construction world that you can get that has that combination is an architect. No other professional has the combination of that creativity, design and technical. Nobody else. That's it. An architect is the only person who can deliver that for you. So it's all very well saying that, you know, as a building control inspector, I do just as good a job as an architect. I do basically the same thing. Well, it's not. It's not going to be the same thing. And if you want a design for your home that is innovative, that is creative, that does reflect what you really want, that reflects what your lifestyle is about, what you need, and it's beautiful and it feels comfortable to be in, not just from a thermal comfort and not just because you've not got any water dripping on your head, but also just it feels nice to be in because it feels peaceful or inspiring or whatever sensation, you know. There are lots of uplifting, exciting, you know, you can tell your architect how you want your space to feel. And don't say a wow factor. You want a wow factor because what does that mean? If you're going to say something like that, you need to then specify what does that mean to you, because a wow factor can mean anything to anybody. And so, okay, so that's what you'll get if you, those are the kinds of people you can use instead of an architect, and that's the sort of approach you'll get from them. And then how is an architect actually different? So an architect must have a minimum level of qualifications and experience just to qualify as an architect. And it takes a minimum of 7 years to qualify as an architect. On average, it takes about 9 years to fully qualify as an architect. So, I mean, how anybody thinks that they've done a 3-year degree and then come straight out into the world and say, oh, I'm just the same as an architect, I can just do exactly the same thing. No, I'm sorry. If you've not done the same length of time, you're not going to have the same level of skill and knowledge and experience as somebody who has trained for almost twice or even 3 times as long. It's just not possible to cram that much experience into that time. So, you know, there's that minimum level of experience and qualifications. You have to be registered as an architect to be able to call yourself an architect.